So guys, I did some testing with War Thunder real-time information, that app that you can draw some more information from the aircraft that you are flying at the right time that you are flying. And I did some tests between the F-15s to test it out how much better is it the F-15I, or rather the new engines for the F-15E, right? So I did the same tests using the same map in the same location, doing the same thing in different circumstances, of course, but in this, all of them in the same circumstances, right? So we tested basically the total weight of some payloads when using the aircraft, the thrust of them in optimal conditions. That doesn't mean the thrust that the hangar says to you that the engines produce. That means in optimal conditions, the most amount of air possible getting into those engines, how much thrust they produce, okay? And then the thrust to weight and a relation between the total weight and the thrust of these loadouts in these circumstances in optimal conditions, with the engines producing the most amount of power, so that we can draw some conclusions, okay? So let's get to the results at first and then a conclusion, okay? First things first, empty tests, okay? So this is 10 minutes. This is no weapons, nothing, just aircraft spawned, minimal fuel, unlimited fuel, of course, just to have less of a variable fuel consumption here. And then we weighted the aircraft, measured the thrust and the thrust to weight. So comparing the three F-15s that I tested, the F-15E, the F-15I, and the F-15C. Okay, in this first set we actually measured that the F-15E and C produce around 142 kilonewtons in each engine in most, like in optimal conditions, which means 284 kilonewtons, around 14,200 kilograms of force in each engine. Rather, the F-15I produced, or the new engine for the F-15E produced 17,800 kilograms of force in each engine, producing a total amount in optimal conditions of 356 kilonewtons, which means that it has around 70 to 80 kilonewtons more than the F-15E and F-15C. Okay, so this is the first conclusion that we draw. This is the amount of power that the new engines actually produce, and these are the engines that will be in the F-15E. Okay, then we measured the total weight of the aircraft when in that condition, right, when empty, right? So the F-15E was 16.8 tons, the F-15I was 17.2 tons, so an increase of around 200 kilograms, probably due to the new engines, I gotta say. And then the F-15C was 15.5 tons, meaning that the F-15C is around 1.3 tons less than the F-15E, and 1.7 more or less than the I, okay? Then we draw the conclusion of thrust to weight. The thrust to weight of the E on that condition was 1.68, on the C was 1.83, so a lot better than the E, of course, because of the extra weight with the same engine power. And the I was an amazing and probably the best in the game, 2.05, yes. It can produce basically twice as much power than it actually needs to ever like fly like a rocket, basically. It can produce 2 times the amount of thrust that it has weight, pretty much, right? Because each engine produces already more than the weight of the aircraft in force. Each engine. You only needed one engine to fly in this condition and have a 1.0 thrust to weight, and it has 2. This is how amazing this aircraft is, okay? This is the reason why it has such an enormous amount of acceleration. Then we go for the fully filled 40 minutes test, but using an air-to-air loadout. So 8 missiles, 6 AIM-120s, 2 AIM-9s, no external fuel tanks, no CFTs, just full fuel tank internally, right? The F-15E produced and the C produced the same power, 284 kilonewtons. The F-15I obviously produced the same power, 356 kilonewtons in optimal conditions, right? The weight increased to an enormous amount on the E of 22.2 tons, which is like very heavy. The I was 22.57, like so almost 22.6, which means it's basically the same increase as before. So around 400 kilograms because of the new engines and stuff for the I. And the C was 20.8 tons, so a lot, you know, a lot less than the other ones. But the majority of the conclusions we can draw from the thrust weight. The thrust weight of the F-15E on this condition, fully filled, 40 minutes, 8 missiles for air-to-air, 1.28 for the F-15E, 1.36 for the F-15C, so better, but the difference between the E and C now are a lot smaller than before. And the F-15I was an enormous amount of 1.58, which is almost the same thrust weight that the F-15E had when empty weighted. So you can draw the conclusions yourself. It's amazing, right? These engines are really strong, my god. And then we did an extra test of actually measuring the amount of fuel, the amount of thrust weight and everything, the same that we did before. When using the F-15E and I, we didn't do with the C because it's not a CAS option, but using CAS loadout. So the same loadout of fully loaded with JDAMs and GBUs, the same loadout for both aircraft, to see what was the difference between that and compared to the results that we had before, right? So the F-15E got an enormous amount of weight of 24.8 tons, and the F-15I 25.2 tons more or less, right? So it means that it is the same between each other, but yeah, 25 tons, around 25 tons for both aircraft. Very, very heavy, right? But the extra weight for the F-15I produced a thrust weight of 1.41 in the I variant compared to the 1.14 for the E, which means that the F-15I will have a better thrust weight when fully loaded as a CAS aircraft than with the F-15C fully loaded as an air-to-air combat aircraft. Just let that sink in of how good the F-15I is gonna be when using CFTs, which are heavy, when using everything with the CAS option, with the CFTs empty, but they are there, of course, so they have weight. Bombs, missiles, you still have two AIM-120s, two AIM-9s and stuff. It would still have a better thrust weight than the F-15C taking off as an air-to-air combat machine. It means that it can fight better against another aircraft when it's fully loaded with a CAS option, the F-15I or the future F-15E, than the F-15C can when it's fully loaded at the beginning of a match. This is how incredibly strong these engines are for these aircraft. Like I said, if you had an empty weighted aircraft, you have in one single engine producing more power than the total weight of the gravity pulling this aircraft down in one engine. It's nuts how crazy powerful this aircraft is. My conclusions here, guys, well, one thing is clear. This aircraft will be one of the most deadly aircraft in the game. Will it be OP? Well, if you're a tank, yes, you gotta be careful. And if you're doing BVR, you gotta think about them putting those AIM-120s in the best possible condition possible for you to shoot, like for them to shoot at you, right? So you do need to be careful with BVR. I think the AIM-120 is already the best BVR missile that we have in top tier, basically. The one that has basically the most powerful combination of lower drag and powerful engine, you know. So it means that it is one of the best missiles we have for BVR. And this aircraft will put these missiles in the best window possible for you to get killed by them at 50 kilometers. So this is where I think it will shine. In a dogfight, well, it will be amazing as well, but it can run away from you very quickly, and it will be able to get you in a turn if you're not careful. But to be honest, if you are an Su-27, if you are a Gripen, if you are an F-16, you can beat it faster than he can just energied you, basically, right? So I don't think it's gonna be that incredible on that regard of dogfights, but let's wait and see how it is actually implemented in the game first, okay, guys? But yeah, basically these are the conclusions that I have. Let me know in the comments what is yours, you know, and of course leave a comment, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and I plan to do more videos like this for other aircraft and stuff like that. Okay guys, so see you guys on the next one. Make sure to subscribe, and bye. See ya.